Hi everyone in Cyberland. Thank you for watching this game. It was held on the 16th of July, which I'm recording it today on 2021. It is the FIDE World Cup Championship held in Sochi, Russia. That is the same place we have had the Olympics sometime years ago. But now we have the World Cup, the FIDE World Chess Cup being held there, and Magnus Carlsen is playing. And this game is against Sasha Martinovic. Alrighty, and so here we go. It is a pretty long drawn out game, so I'm just going to try to go fast and not explain too much about it. And here we go. Until the end, obviously. So here we go. E4, C5. We already know that is. That's a Sicilian opening. And knight to f3. Actually, it will be a Sicilian dragon opening with a Yugoslav attack. So hold tight to your horses and see how this all went. So far, it's standard opening theory. Okay, we take. We take out the knight to f6, knight to c3, knight to c6, knight to b3. G6. That's a 7-minute 44 seconds thinking here. Bishop to e3. Bishop to g7. Do you see the diagonal bishop here? Oh, that's a dragon. Anyway, queen to d2. Castling. So far, that's castling for Mr. Martinovic. Carlsen has not castled as of yet. Bishop to e6. Another 7 minutes and 42 seconds thinking in the beginning there, trying to formulate something deep. And now Carlsen castles on the queen side. So we have opposite castling here. Interesting. That usually changes the dynamic of now you're attacking of different sides of the board. Rook to c8. King to b1. Knight to e5. Bishop to e2. Wow, 17 minutes of thinking here. 17 minutes. Bishop to c4. Bishop to d4. Bishop takes on e2, threatening the rook. Except why is it there? It just wanted to take that bishop, I guess, because it's not protected, is it? But it's gonna kind of mess up Carlsen's strategy there probably. So he takes with the queen. The knight moves back. Bishop takes this knight. We take. There's some exchanges here. Okay, the knight moves in. Looks like this is a knight type of game. Very proficient. You need to be very proficient in knights. They're kind of tricky pieces. Bishop to g7, sorry, moves back. h4. The hairy pawn moves up. Alrighty, interesting. Let's look at this position. Look at the pawn structure here. Very interesting pawn structure there. Lots going on. Both the kings are quite secure for now. Okay, except for black having a little hole with that bishop there. But anyway, will that be consequential later on in the game? We have a lot more moves to go, so let's just go. e6, attacking the knight. Knight moves back. Queen moves in. Then we continue. With the hairy pawn. Looks like Carlsen's up to his old tricks. The h-pawn is on the move. Okay, so now I'm going to counter-attack in the center. He takes. Now the queen is back in its position. Okay, in a semi-open line where there's just a pawn there. Pawn moves up to d4, attacking the knight. Knight moves out. Okay, we are putting more position, so everything's going on at a lot of pressure now. It seems the fight for the D line here. Rook to D8 was made. Okay, the hairy pawn's on the move. Now it's been taken. So there's an H file opening. Okay, interesting. Will the Carlsen have time to regroup and the queen and the rook and everything else on the H file? We'll see how this end proceeds. Okay, the knight moves in, attacking the pawn, but will there be an exchange of queens? Because if Carlsen takes that knight, the queen will be taken, but there is no counter attack for the queen to be if it's taken. So what will Magnus do? He attacks the queen. The queen just moves out of the way. He moves to the C file. Very interesting moves. Okay, protecting that pawn twice between the queen and now the rook is protecting that C pawn and C2. Knight moves back. Carlsen keeps pushing with his pawn now, this one to F5. Wow, the knight wants to do some damage again. But oh, he takes and takes. And now, this is how we get rid of the queens. The queens are off the board. We are going into the end game, everyone. End game. Usually the queens off the board, a lot of pressure we relieved. Now we're into the pawn end game, looks like. What we have left, let's look at the material. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns for black and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns for white. Then the positioning of the structure. Okay, we got quite a structure for white, still protected with his pawns, although he needs some breathing room just in case if there's going to be a back rank attack. There could be one on black's part, while the black king has quite a few openings and already a rook by Carlsen on the H file. So it's still, according to the computers, pretty even. Let's see how will Magnus capitalize on this situation that now the queens are off the board, a lot of pressure is off, and now we continue attacking that isolated pawn. So now we protect the pawn. Let's see, we take a pawn, we take the pawn, so pawns are taken. Movements have been made here by the rook, different position than it was before. I don't know. It had an open file. If he just had aligned the other rook, that would have been almost a checkmate, if you know what I mean. But anyway, we continue. Rook to E2, protecting that pawn on G3. So now we move up the pawn on C3. Oh wow, we're now trying to stop any pawn advance. What will Magnus do? He's got the knight still that can jump this fence. There is basically a rook fence forming on Magnus Carlsen's side. So there's pressure here. Let's see if he can release that pressure somehow. Again, he's very good that he's moving his knight to attack that rook, because otherwise his pawns will not be able to advance. So we have a double battery on the G file, rook to G4. Now you can tell that there's a fight, like a rooster fight beginning. Okay, we take. Wow, I don't know. They just seem to not want to be playing anymore. You know, this is over the board. Well, this is kind of a long game, so you gotta have the stamina. So I don't know. They just decided to get rid of more pieces. Interesting. Was that necessary? Maybe not, but maybe they're both tired by now. I don't know. You have to have a lot of physical stamina to play over the board chess. You can thousands of calories are burned by just thinking. Your thinking power when you're in the zone, the zen, in the zone kind of mode. Okay, so now he's using his knight very wisely to attack that rook. He just managed to be able to get that rook off of the file. Now he's totally open to be able to move his and promote his pawns in a way. All right, so now he's attacking that knight. He moves out, attacking the bishop. So no last moves with Magnus. Every move really has to count. And so if you want my knight, I will be taking your bishop. So he continues to attack the knight. So Magnus protects. Bishop, in the meantime, escapes the knight's threat. Okay, so we'll just move up the pawn. And so does Martinovic, moving up. Okay, getting closer there, moving out of the way. So now he's attacking the rook. Okay, that was his point to get after that pawn on the a file. The rook to e5 move. But that would meant that he would take. So now he has a passed pawn. So it's really a race after the races, like you know those little races of dogs. Who's gonna get to the finish line first? Now it's gonna be a pawn race. Let's see what happens. Bishop's protecting. The king moves out. When it's like this, the kings are rushing to get to the other to eat the other side's pawns. Okay, rushing. Okay, now we're at this like a standoff, like Wild West. All right, we're moving in. This is precision. Is counts here. Okay, that is a very interesting move. You always almost have the king and the knight close to each other in the end games. It's a protective way of maneuvering. And the game skill is critical here. Okay, we are slowly advancing, moving, slowly advancing. Look at this. Look at this nice line. Again, diagonal. All right, the knight is protecting that pawn on the b file. The bishop is moving around. Okay, we'll have time. Okay, we are going. Okay, what are we going to do? Wow, do you see this? Do you see this? Protecting. And we have moved the king out. This is precision. The king is staying on the white squares to avoid the bishop, any bishop moves. Okay, so you see there's a jockeying for position. Jockeying for position now, blocking that pawn from moving. The bishop can't do anything. So obviously, if the a pawn can get to the 8th square there, it's all over. Look at the king. All right, and this is how it ended. Because with this move, it allows it will get rid of the it will get rid of the bishop if the pawn moves up, but it'll give a chance to protect the b pawn. So basically, the game is over for black. Very interesting end game here. You gotta be a master in end games in the end. Basically, if it's not a draw, every game will have some sort of end game, unless you resign in the middle of the road. But really study your end games, especially pawn end games. They are critical, and the knowledge of how to move the king and what's left on the board is critical into seeing how the technique and the slicing through and this it will help you greatly if you do puzzles that have pawn end games. And that's how it was. That's how Magnus Carlsen won for now with his game on July 16, 2021. There's more games to go. And Good luck to all the participants in the World FIDE Chess World Cup, Sochi, Russia, 2021. Thank you.